Today is our final day of the Christ Amid the Suffering devotional series. It has been a tremendous time together as we look into how the Lord has spoken into a situation of fear and anxiety and distress and comfort. These are things that are prevalent in the health crisis that are around the world right now. I pray these short conversations have given you a glimpse into the heart of the Lord. Yesterday's text was the Good Samaritan. The Samaritan, what the text says is, had compassion for the man who was robbed. What a godly quality. Yet, as a very fitting text today, as we wrap up our time together, I think it's important that we see that compassion doesn't only mean helping people. Compassion also means staying with people. I worked with a hospital chaplain one time who received a bedside call from a very antagonistic atheist. Upon entering the room, the patient screamed at him to leave because he didn't want to hear about all that religious stuff. In wisdom, this chaplain said, "Of course, I know where your heart is, and I want you to know where I'll be, sitting right outside your room until you're ready. The Lord cares for you." At that, the patient scoffed and said, "Yeah, right," and rolled over. My friend, this chaplain, sat in a chair right outside that patient's room for 3 12-hour shifts. He didn't leave. The patient finally took a walk outside of his room and saw the chaplain sitting there. Tears filled his eyes as he said, "You didn't leave. Tell me about God." In Nehemiah 9:19, we read of God staying with the Israelites during their distress and wandering in the wilderness. They had already rejected God a few times, already turned back to idolatry, but God stayed. He wanted the Israelites to know exactly where he was and exactly where he was going to be. He gave them a cloud to see him in the day and a pillar of fire to see him at night. And the text reads in Nehemiah 9:19, "You did not abandon us in the wilderness because of your great compassion." In these seasons of our lives, when distress and angst and pain, and for many of us, hurting, because of his great compassion, because of the great compassion of the Lord of heaven and earth, he does not abandon you. He is with you. This is a time of separation, isolation, people walking in the wilderness alone in their own homes. We must be like God. We must be like the Good Samaritan. And we must be like this chaplain who, in the hospital, who, despite being pushed away, despite the seeming rejection of help, stayed. In our final day of questions here today, ask yourself, how is the Lord with you? And how are you with those around you? Thank you so much for joining me on this great path through Scripture in these past few days. Peace.